Hey everybody, I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. It's time to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Mike with MK Outdoor Journal, and this is The Right of the People. It is Friday, December 10th, 2021, and it looks like we just lost the tactical pickle. Squib, are you still with us?
I don't know. Maybe.
I can hear you.
Wow.
The technical diddlies are striking pretty hard here tonight, so Squib may be with us. He may not. If he drops out, it's not being rude. It's technology, and it's all its wonder. Same thing as I suspect happened to Pickle. So hopefully he gets to come back and conversate with us. I'd like to welcome Mountain View. Although he's not going to be able to catch it live tonight, he's going to have to watch it on the replay. He was here earlier to stop in and say hello. We got Gun Lover Grandpa in the house. G-Web's out there. Gunpowder Beauty. Anybody else who would like to say hi, please feel free to sound off in the chat. If you're not watching live and you're watching on replay, sound off in the comments below. Let us know you're here. All I ask is that, remember, disagreement is fine. You can disagree with anything I or anyone else says. It is, in fact, still a free country, despite what some people want to try to make it. But disagreement is awesome. All I ask is that you just be polite. Don't engage in personal attacks. Don't engage in trolling. Basically, don't be a dickhead. Because if you are, my mods will give you the old boot. And if they don't, I will. Looks like we had somebody new hop in. We got this week unloaded. We got Rich in the house with us. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, all right, I suppose. A little under the weather.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I got tested, but it's not for COVID. I actually might be the one person in the world that has the flu this year.
What?
Yeah.
You mean like it's the flu plus COVID,
Yeah.
right?
No, just the good old-fashioned influenza virus.
Yeah, but, when you go to the hospital, they'll mark it with
Nope.
COVID symptoms, right?
No. My doctor ran both a COVID and a flu test, which are both the same thing, where it's basically just the Q-tip up the nose deal. And what the COVID came back negative and the flu came back positive.
Well, I'll be darned. That's you are something of a anomaly anymore. Seems like everything's COVID.
Right? All right. It's like craziness.
Got Ozark Yeoman in the house. K-Pasta. Jacob S. says, hey, he can't really talk. He's about to drive home from work. Well, please, by all means, pay attention to your driving. You want to keep it between the lines so that you can get safely to where you're going. We don't want any crashes other than the absolute dumpster diving shit show that this will probably be. It'll probably end up being a train wreck because, it's the right of the people. What do you expect? Certainly not quality professional level broadcasting because, hello. Trying to get my topics set up. Let's see if my interminets want to cooperate. Come on. Here we go. So, we all know that... do we have Pickle back? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's where my wife called, so I had to drop out of the show for a minute.
Well, Pickleback's better than Nickelback, that's what I say. So I'm glad to have you back, brother.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all right. Let's see. We got New York Outcast out there. Hello. Glad to see everybody showing up. I don't know. I didn't really hear about this until today that a couple days ago, there was a fella in, not Oklahoma, but Missouri, who posted a threat online to shoot up the school. Quote, in honor of Kyle Rittenhouse. Let's go ahead and take a look at this story. This is from the New York Post. Man sought to kill school students in name of Kyle Rittenhouse by Joshua Rhett Miller from December 8th. A deranged Missouri man threatened to kill students at a high school in the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, police said. Mitchell Lovelace, 27, posted on Snapchat Saturday that he planned to shoot up Festus High School in honor of the Illinois teen, according to charging documents cited by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Rittenhouse, 18, was acquitted of all charges last month in the shootings that killed 2 men and wounded a third during unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin in August 2020. Now, pay attention to how the New York Post phrased this, and they're not the only media outlet phrasing it like this. Let me reread this. Mitchell Lovelace, 27, posted on Snapchat Saturday that he planned to shoot up Festus High School in honor of the Illinois teen. In honor of. We'll keep that phrase in mind. Lovelace, who was later arrested at his Festus home, has been charged with making a terrorist threat, according to Jefferson County prosecutors. I'm going to shoot Festus High School students in the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, Lovelace's post read. KMOV reported. Another post by Lovelace warned that, no wonder schools get shot. The news just proved we can get away with it, especially if it's a shithole like Festus. Charging documents read. So, he wrote this and was going to shoot up the school in honor of Kyle Rittenhouse. But he says, no wonder schools get shot. The news just proved we can get away with it, especially if it's a shithole like Festus. So it doesn't sound to me like he's all that happy about the Rittenhouse thing and that it would be in honor of such. Prosecutors said Lovelace had previously penned social media posts threatening violence against police and killing a former president. They don't mention who the former president was, which one that he's threatening to kill. As well as his parents and taking his own life, the Post-Dispatch reported. An attorney for Lovelace, who is being held without bond at the Jefferson County Jail, did not return a request for comment late Tuesday, according to the newspaper. Festus R6 school district officials were notified of Lovelace's threat, leading them to put school resource officers on heightened patrol following the alleged threat of gun violence. A Facebook profile for Mitchell Lovelace from Festus indicates he attended Festus High School. The rest of the profile, meanwhile, was largely scrubbed, with no posts available as of early Wednesday. And I had to go take a look and see if I could find that, and lo and behold, Mitchell Lovelace's Facebook post is indeed, his profile is El Scrubberooed. He has no posts available. So we can't see any of his social media posts wherein he threatened a former president. You know, like, what former president? We can't see what his reaction to anything was. We can't see what his reaction to the Rittenhouse verdict was because his social media has been wiped. Why do you think this is? I can tell you that on the left, there are plenty of people who, as soon as they heard that metaphorical starter pistol go off, leapt into an all-out dash to smear the right and to smear the right to self-defense and to smear Kyle Rittenhouse, saying that it's the Kyle Rittenhouse effect, that right-wing nut jobs just feel that they can go out and kill people now and get away with it, and oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But guess what they're leaving out? Because as I'm sure you can suspect from my tone here, this fellow was not, in fact, talking about being all angry about, not joyous that Rittenhouse killed somebody and was going to go do this in Rittenhouse's honor. Oh, no. he was going to do it in protest. This is a piece from Mom at Arms. Oh, shoot, wrong. Here we go. This is a piece from Mom at Arms. It says, anti-gun lefty mad about Rittenhouse verdict, threatens to shoot up school over it. Keeping this quick, saw this post for Mom's Demand Action. And it shows the post for Mom's Demand. It says, unacceptable. A man threatened a Missouri high school with a school shooting in the name of Kyle Rittenhouse. We shouldn't be afraid to send our children to school. Text ready to 644-33 and help us keep our community safer from gun violence. Then it shows from a headline from KansasCity.com, man threatened school shooting in the name of Kyle Rittenhouse. Mom's Demand seems to be implying that it was in honor of him. However, it's because he's a mentally ill leftist that was threatening a revenge shooting. Loveless, who was later arrested at his Festus home, has been charged with making a terrorist threat, according to Jefferson County prosecutors. I'm going to shoot Festus high school students in the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, Loveless's post read. Another post by Loveless warned that no wonder schools get shot. The news just proved we can get away with it, especially if it's a shithole like Festus. Charging documents read. This is the same article I just read you. Festus is in Jefferson County, and if he thinks it's a shithole and he's complaining about guns/Rittenhouse, it's because it's a Republican stronghold. And then he shows the 2020 election results, which mean that county went overwhelmingly Republican. Keep up the great work, emotionally unstable leftists. You're really making the point for everyday carry and self-defense for us. LOL. And then, of course, we get back to the fact that Facebook scrubbed this guy's account. There's nothing there. We can't read it. We can't tell what his bias actually is. No one can. And again, the left is just running with this. So it's a case of the media doing everything they can to take an opportunity to spin things to present their side in the best light, to blame Republicans, to blame the right, to blame gun owners, to blame anyone who's pro-self-defense for the actions of yet another nut job. I wish I could say this surprised me, but it doesn't. What do you guys think?
Doesn't really surprise me. That's for the one caveat. That's for how are we? That's for when everything is scrubbed. Unless someone had access to it beforehand, before it got scrubbed. There's whack jobs on both sides. I mean, This guy definitely sounds like he's probably, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, on, one particular side of the spectrum. But there are people that are just as whacked on the other. So that's what I'm just trying to find out. Where's the data that they're using to make certain assumptions?
Well, they can't show it. They can't show it because it was shoved down the memory hole. That's the point. That's the point I'm making. I tried. I looked for hours to try to find this guy's social media profile so I could go right to the source and show that to you because, I don't like to rely on secondhand crap. But I can't find it. What I have to go on is the New York Post article where it quoted one of his previous posts. And that's it. That's all I can find. Yeah, I can't find anything.
Yeah, I'm using the Wayback Machine, if you guys know what that is, where you can go and look at former websites, even if they've been scrubbed, they'll usually be documented, and I can't even find anything on him there.
Right. I mean, and the fact that he was scrubbed from, by these particular websites certainly suggests that his leanings is similar to their own, and they're trying to distance themselves a little bit. But that's where, again, that's an assumption, and that's where I was just trying to see if there was any data that we could get our hands on, to prove the fact. That's so that's what I was just trying to determine.
Well, and again, it's allowing people to paint this guy as a right-wing racist nut job. There's one YouTuber, and I'm not going to mention her name or give a link to her or shout out to her or nothing, because she's pretty fucking disgusting, saying that this guy was a right-wing, white supremacist, racist, Neander thug is what she called him. using the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict as an excuse to go out and try to kill black people.
Ooh, does this YouTuber live in South Carolina?
I don't know where she lives.
Okay.
But it's like, I mean, do a search for this guy, the Mitchell Lovelace, and I'm sure you'll come across her. That's how I found her, was through searching for this guy. And it's disgusting, the fact that the media scrubbed this and then put the spin on it, and we can't find anything to concretely refute it.
Right. I mean, that's where, because I know, like, was it the dumbass? Sorry, but that's where the guy, San Antonio or something. It was like the day after one of those. There was a shooting, so he's like, well, decided to do the Second Amendment audit through whatever, Walmart or whatever. I don't remember him getting scrubbed. That's when every news agency imaginable was, throwing up screenshots of his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that this guy is scrubbed certainly suggests, that his posts and his the social media history wasn't in favor of the story, but it's still a guess, and that's what I don't like about it. But I get that you tried, so I'm not blaming you on any of that.
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah, I tried. I spent hours looking for this guy's social media everywhere, and I could find nothing. I mean, the most I could find was the blank page. And I really think that's, while that is not concrete proof of media collusion or leftist collusion, it's certainly indicative of it. It's certainly indicative of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, if it's the same one, I didn't have a chance to read the full article. That's where, is that the guy that had like the sub 2000 and the backpack and that kind of stuff? Was that the same? Was that guy?
I'm sorry, what?
I saw an image and a headline I didn't have a chance to finish, looking at, but that's where it was some, I could tell the gist was it was complaining about somebody, a potential shooting suspect or whatever, that was, and it was a picture, not a picture of them, but a picture of the guns and ammo and whatnot they were planning on using, as the cops were doing their inventory.
I have no
idea. It was
idea.
like a sub 2000, and then 3-4 boxes of of ammo and handful of magazines.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't see that. Ozark says Festus is majorly conservative. They also scrubbed the YouTube and Facebook of the Waukesha guy right away. Yeah, they did. They did. Which again leads me to believe that this is a case of let's hide his leftist leanings, because if it were right, if he leaned to the right, they'd be trumpeting this all over. I suspect the former president that he threatened to kill was Donald Trump. Why don't they just say it? Why? If they know that he threatened a former president, then they know which one. Why aren't they saying it? Is it because it doesn't fit the narrative? I don't know. But it would certainly be my guess. If I had to put my money on it, that's the way I'd bet.
Yeah, it's a safe bet to make.
Good evening, Jason. How are you? Tickets in the house. Ticket says I saw some image of some guy with his PCC and a few Glock mags laid out. Gunpowder Beauty says, holy snickerdoodles, just goes to show whack jobs are everywhere. So, yeah, speaking of whack jobs being everywhere, there's definitely one in the Senate.
Only one?
This is from okay. There's like 100 of them in the Senate. True. BusinessInsider.com has this article. Senator Chris Murphy says he'd settle for scaled-back gun control measures because that will save lives. This is by John Dorman from December 5th. Senator Chris Murphy, one of the most prominent gun control advocates in the upper chamber, on Sunday said he could settle for scaled-back measures days after 4 students were killed during a shooting at a Michigan high school. During an appearance on CNN's State of the Union, the Connecticut Democrats said that despite the party controlling the White House and Congress and overwhelmingly supporting measures like universal background checks, filibuster rules in the Senate are preventing the legislation from passing. I won't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? He said. I want universal background checks. I want a ban on assault weapons, but I will settle for something much less because that will save lives. Murphy's renewed push comes after an individual opened fire at Oxford High School, located in suburban Detroit. The suspect, 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley, was arrested at the scene and has been charged as an adult. He faces 24 criminal counts, including first-degree murder and terrorism. His parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, on Saturday pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. They were set to be arraigned the day before but failed to appear in court, which led to a search from law enforcement officials. Murphy has sought to enact comprehensive gun control legislation since his tenure in the House, which took on greater urgency for him after the December 2012 school shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, located within his then congressional district. When Murphy joined the Senate in 2013, he continued his work toward more expansive gun control. While on CNN, Murphy said that he hoped to see some Republican epiphanies on the issue. I wish my Republican colleagues didn't sort of have epiphanies on the issue only after mass school shootings, he said, but that tends to be what happens, and so my hope is that in the next couple of weeks we can get back to the table and see if we can, at the very least, maybe close the gun show loophole. That alone would save a lot of lives, he added. What he's talking about, people, is your right to privately buy through private transaction a firearm without benefit of filling out a Form 4473 and thus letting the ATF know exactly what you have, since they're pretty much keeping all 4473s forever now. So, yeah, that's pretty awesome. But that's not all that old Christopher has to say about this. Oh no. This piece from Breitbart is entitled, Murphy, GOP wants to destroy U.S., supporting individuals arming against government. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, Tuesday on MSNBC's Deadline, said that the Republican Party wanted to destroy the United States government, so they were associating themselves with the ability of individuals to arm themselves against the government. Anchor Nicole Wallace said, where does the sickness come from with a Christmas gift for a child was a gun? The child's instability was known to the school and communicated to the parents, and then 2 days later, Republican elected official whose salary is drawn from the United States taxpayer sends out gun porn asking Santa to bring ammo. She's talking about the Massey family Christmas card that had them all clutching guns and asking for Santa to send more ammo. How do we deal with the rot and the sickness around guns? I mean, cars kill people, but you need a license, and if my 9-year-old drove my car, I'd go to jail. Why is the gun obsession not just the right to have a gun, not just the right to have any gun you want, not just the right to have as many of whatever gun you want, but the right to not keep it out of my unstable kid's hands? Where does that sickness come from? Wow, with a question like that, what do you expect the answer is going to be? Well, Murphy said, yeah, I mean, there is a celebratory culture around guns in this nation that knows no parallel anywhere else in the world. And frankly, it looks very unfamiliar to the America of just 40 or 50 years ago. Where have you been? I think some of it is due to a complicated story about the metamorphosis of the Republican Party. The Republican Party has kind of lost any big ideas. The only idea they have left is that they want to destroy government, and the way they translate that often is by associating themselves with the ability of individuals to arm themselves against the government. In other words, Chrissy, you and your ilk don't want us to have the ability to resist the bullshit you plan for us, which begs the question, what is it that you have planned that you're afraid we're going to shoot you for? Please discuss. Open floor.
Hold on. That's where they're saying that Republicans want to tear apart the government because we're wanting, because people want, when it is the whack job socialist organ, like the Squad, that would love to see our entire means of government and entire means of defending our own rights tore apart so that they can do whatever the heck it is they.
Well, apparently the sirens were coming after Pickle. They took him out in mid-sentence.
He is in California.
I must have hit a button by accident. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we thought the popo came for you.
The siren was an ambulance.
Okay.
That's for what I was trying to say. That's for the they were saying the Republicans are the ones wanting to destroy stuff, but when it's AOC and her squad that have blatantly and publicly have said they wanted to dismantle, the government as it has stood for 200 years, so they can implement what they want without anyone getting in their way.
There's no law that you can create that would have stopped what happened in Oxford. None. The father bought the firearm from an FFL lawfully. He passed his background check. It was a gun that was legal to own. He took it home, and what happens in his home happens in his home. If he chooses to give his teenager,
it's even
whether
registered,
he thinks
right? Since you guys
in Michigan, yeah, there's a handgun registration here. Yep. So really, it just means he's got extra paperwork, really.
Yep.
So the handgun registration and the fact that now marijuana is legal in Michigan means that you can't do an owner-to-owner transaction with a firearm without going through an FFL. So anyhow, so he didn't break any laws buying the gun. What he does in his home is what he does in his home.
Yep.
Whether he thought his kid was psycho or evil, or he thought his kid was an angel, what he does in his home is what he does in his home. There's no laws that say you have to lock up the gun. But if there had been a law that said he had to lock up the gun, it's his house. What are you going to do? Put somebody in everybody's house to watch everything you do? So that law means nothing. They could make up a law that says everybody from the, whatever member of the school staff all the way up to the top of the administration lose their jobs if they fail to stop a school incident, right? That wouldn't make a difference. That wouldn't make a difference at all because these guys have union protection and stuff like that. And now you're just going to make the schools into prisons, and the staff's going to be more paranoid, and we're not even going to get any good people that want to work in there because they're going to be terrified. This whole say something can turn into a witch hunt. That law is not going to do anything. Making a law saying if there's any threat of violence, any hint of violence, whatever, you have to have a county sheriff officer come in there because they did have one of those, what are they called, resource officers, but they failed to call the officer in twice. Making that law doesn't really make much of a difference either, because once again, you turn it into a freaking witch hunt, and then the police department will say, or the sheriff's department will say, we don't have enough officers, we don't have enough money, and then that turns into a fiasco, right? At the end of the day, this comes down to a failure of the parents to properly parent, and it comes down to a failure of the school. I don't know if people are aware of this, but he had the gun in the office with the school staff there, talking to him about what he had drawn, what he had posted, what he was, what was going on. He had the gun in his damn backpack 3 feet away from the assholes who sent him back to class so that he could gun down, his fellow students and I guess a member of the staff.
Not to mention the worthless parents that were sitting right there and refused to take his ass home, so they let him go back to class. Yeah.
So this is a failure of the school system and the parents. And if you want to start legislating out the public school system even more than it already is, you're going to have everybody homeschool, or you're going to have people walking off the job, at the school districts and things like that, and our kids are end up going to prisons. You can't legislate parenting. You can try. I'm not saying there isn't a penalty. They're getting, involuntary manslaughter or whatever. That's not enough. They need to have the book thrown at them. They need to have the book thrown at them. They armed a psycho crazy kid. They armed this kid intentionally. There is no sympathy for these people. These people are not pro 2A people. They're not one of us. They're not. No. But that's all after the fact. There's nothing you could, no, and you know what? No, I take that back. There is one law that you could pass that might have stopped this. And that is giving the faculty the ability to choose to arm themselves at school if the state law already allows it. For example, concealed carry. Here in Michigan, you can conceal carry with a concealed pistol license. Open carry, you can open carry without a license. As long as you're a lawful, you're able to lawfully own a gun, then you can do that. So if they gave the faculty the choice to be armed, this kid would have thought,
now that's insane.
I know. Because then the kid would be going, holy crap, I'm not going to make it 3 feet before Mr. Johnson shoots me, right? He went in there because he had all the power. He knew it was a soft target. He knew there was nobody to stop him. He had all the power. Now, if it's known that there could be people armed at school, we don't know who, we don't know how many, all of them, none of them. We don't know when and where and what. Now, all of a sudden, it's no longer a soft target. Now these people would be thinking twice. And that doesn't mean the craziest of the crazies won't go in there and maybe they'll try to pull suicide by teacher instead of suicide by cop, right? But at least now you've got a fighting chance. And you can say somebody will get hit, by stray shots, or you might say law enforcement doesn't know who's a good guy and bad guy. There are ways to do training. They already do enough training. There's ways to do training to deal with that sort of thing. And I would rather get hit by a stray round than get hit by a round that's meant for me, okay? A fighting chance is better than no chance at all. So the one law that might have stopped this, might have prevented it, or might have made it in faster and saved lives, is the one thing that they don't want to even try. They don't even, the crime bill was a 10-year law. And at the end of 10 years, statistics said that it did nothing to reduce crime. Okay, so why not allow the faculty to be armed according to the state laws in their state for 10 years and see if school violence drops? And if it doesn't end in 10 years, we're right. If it doesn't, then we were wrong. But that's just it. If we're right, then they all have to admit that all these decades they've been lying to us, and they're not about to do that. So your kid is at risk because they don't want to admit that they've been lying to us. And these are the people we have elected over and over and over again. And if somebody says, well, then we should just get rid of public schools, that's not the answer. I can tell you, in this area, there have been nothing but threats of potential school shootings from students, elementary all the way to high school. Yes, elementary. In the metro area. 5 counties make up the Detroit metro area. In Oakland County alone, the county Oxford is in, the county I live in, okay? We keep getting notice after notice after notice of these kids. They're trying to tell the parents, would you watch what the hell your kids are doing? Talk to your kids. Say, don't even do this as a joke. They're actually arresting these kids and putting them in the Oakland County jail, the same place this little bastard is, just because they posted a threat on social media or they found a picture or something like that. And these kids are actually facing charges for making threats because the kids know that if they think there's a school shooting, what do? They close school. They closed my son's school. We're 2 districts over from Oxford. They closed my son's school for damn near a week because of this. And they've already had 3 threats in my district, 3 threats that I'm aware of. And it's kids trying to get more days off of school. They need to put the kids right back in school the next day. Now, obviously not in the school where the event happened, but all the other schools. Because you send a message to these kids. If you make threats, we all get the day off. And the kids are stupid. They don't think 5 minutes in front of their face, and you can't count on the parents to parent. And then you go, well, I don't want my kid going to school because now there's been threats. Then pull your kid out of school. I'm not. We're not going to sit here and live in fear. That's how terrorists win. And that's why this kid was charged with terrorism, because you use violence to push an agenda, and you get people psychologically to bow to your wishes because of that. So there's a lot of things that have been going on because of Oxford that are a mess. And of course, everybody wants to play on it. The pro 2A side's jumping all over it, going, they're coming for our guns. And the anti 2A side saying, we need to make all these laws that have nothing to do with the crime, but that'll make us all feel better. And it's a freaking mess, just like it is every time. And you know what? It'll lull for a while, and then some other evil little bastard will go shoot up a school, or some psycho adult will shoot up a school, or some disgruntled employee will have a workplace violence at a school, and they'll call it a school shooting. And we're going to go through this all over again.
By the way, folks, if you haven't figured it out, on the screen is the Congressman Massey's family Christmas photo that sent that reporter into a conniption fit and gave her a case of the vapors. All this does to me is like make me jealous of that Tommy gun and the M60 and the Uzi and every other thing there that's probably full auto because dude can afford it and I can't. No wonder they want more ammo. Wow.
Yeah, that's where, with the idea of arming staff, I'm very much in agreement with Squib, and that's where having, even if, not mandating all staff has to be, but giving them the choice, it would make these little SOBs at least stop and take a second thought. But that's where the ones that are crazy enough to try it, that's where likely they're going to pull it out. The first thing they're going to do is plug the nearest staff member, just in case. But it won't take, then the cops don't know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Well, most of these school shootings are, if you had an armed staff, would probably be over in 3 minutes, if that.
It'd be over before the cops got there.
Exactly. That's where, police response time is going to be 7. It's going to be over in 3. So that's where the cops aren't going to have a hard time figuring out who's who, because, the principal's going to be waiting for them on the front steps when they come screaming in, and then they was like, okay, bodies are this way, bring EMS. Figuring out who's who is not going to be an issue.
Yeah, another law that could help here too, Squib. It goes on Squib's line. Get rid of the goddamn gun-free zones, period.
Yeah.
That all that does is put a bullseye on any place that has one of those signs in front of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. It's a bunch of feel-good measures that don't do anything, and a bunch of people who are ignorant, who don't understand, who don't want to stop and think for themselves and slow down, calm their damn emotions down, and say, okay, let's really look at this. What has been going on? What are the common themes? What are this? What are that? What are that? What haven't we tried? Oh, wait, this? Oh, man, I don't know about this. Yeah, but it's the one thing we haven't tried. We've tried everything else and it ain't worked. So if all these other things don't work and this doesn't work, what's the difference? Try to out-logic that. You can't. But the average person will go, I don't know. And once again, if you don't want your kid to go to school because the staff might potentially be armed, then don't send your kid to school. I don't know what to tell you. There are plenty of people that homeschool their kids because their kids have issues. The kids have been expelled from one school system after another. Nobody will take them. The kids are a mess. They're mental, like this kid or whatever. They have to be homeschooled. They're socially awkward, and their parents don't know how to help their kids to learn how to deal with that sort of thing. So they homeschool them. So it's an option. All right? Your little mental, psycho, crazy, evil little bastard can stay at home with you and your guns that you let them have access to. My kid can go to school and get an education.
Well, that's where, and the kids that are homeschooled is not just the ones that can't get along in the school. It's also, there's plenty of parents that they don't want their kid having to deal with, 8 hours a day of indoctrination by these,
That's a non-issue.
Loose,
That's
the
a non-issue.
loose nuts.
That's a non-issue. You know who I hear saying stuff about that? People whose kids have grown up and moved out, or people who don't have kids. If you parent your kids, the indoctrination that they get at the school means nothing to them. But once again, you have to parent your kids. And some people think that parenting your kids means hovering over them, being one of those helicopter parents, and you're just smothering them. Nope, that's going to push them away. Oh, well, then the opposite is just to walk away and let them do whatever they want. Nope, that's just not parenting. You have to find that middle ground. You have to find that middle ground.
Non-issue. You say non-issue. I have heard more than one parent, state that as a reason for why they chose to homeschool, along with a number of other things.
If they took the damn time to parent their kid, the things the teachers say wouldn't have any influence over them. When you get kids, you come back to me and you tell me that. Until then, I don't want to hear it.
Warsaw Patriot wants to know, here's a question, why can't they just treat schools like airports and have tight security like TSA? Number one, that's not as tight as you would want. Number two, money.
And there
are many more schools than there are airports, and they're not going to spend that kind of money on it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and there was a school board. This is one of the cases we studied when I was in college, where they actually did that. They had the metal detectors with armed guards at the door. Somebody came in and shot all the guards right there at the metal detectors and walked right on through like they weren't even there.
Yep.
It's not going to solve anything.
Right, because that's where there's been schools in cities like LA and whatnot that have had metal detectors and this kind of stuff for years, and kids still, either will shoot the people at the front door and then walk in, or they'll find a way of getting whatever they want past the detectors anyhow. And then, so yeah, I mean, that security, unless they have to go through a full body scanner and the guards are behind, basically monitoring via camera behind an 8-inch solid concrete, and then only after you've passed through clean do they, push a button and it lets one person through. I mean, even then there's ways to bypass it, but yeah, you're not gonna, lock it down as tight as a prison. You're still, if someone wants to bad enough, can still get through.
Right now, the security measures at the public schools that I've seen are easily defeated. They're feel-good measures. However, as a parent, I don't like the fact that I can't get in there to get my kid. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think it's a load of crap. It is. Now, sneaking into the building is not hard to do. So in that case, if I really want to get to my kid, I can. And if you have half a clue, you can too. But locking the schools down and turning them into prisons, the fact that all but one set of doors are supposed to be locked, even though they're not, and some of this other garbage they do, it already makes them sort of like a prison. My kid isn't going to prison, even though I felt like I was in prison when I went to school. And we didn't have security measures. I just didn't like going to school. Other than that, other than feeling because you have to go there, it shouldn't feel like a prison. It shouldn't look like a prison. It shouldn't be a prison. So in the same sense that somebody says, I won't send my kid to public school if the teachers or the staff has the choice to arm themselves, I'm not going to send my kid to public school if they they actually turn it into a detention center with the barbed wire and the towers and the multiple layers. And it's already bad enough, some of the COVID garbage that they do that slows them down from getting to school, and some of the other things that they do that are just absolutely ridiculous. But putting metal detectors and all that and making everybody form a line and searching them and all that, that's just crazy. It's just crazy. But here's the other thing too. I don't know how it is where you guys live, but I can tell you where I live, school administration makes buku dollars. Buku dollars. Fire the administration? Dude, you can put metal detectors in every building. Every building. Okay? Do we really need those people making that sort of money who make bad decisions? The guys in Oxford right now have been doing everything they can to save their hides, to save their jobs, because they make a lot of money. They will get blacklisted and not be able to work in education again if they end up losing their jobs over this. They don't care about your kids. They care about their money.
My local high school has a sign on the door, except it's an awesome sign. It says that our staff are armed and will use force if you come in here to hurt our kids. And I think that's the way it should be. However, this next topic is definitely not the way I think it should be. This is a piece from ZeroHedge.com by Tyler Durden. Bump stock ban headed to Supreme Court after appeals court deadlocks, from December 8th. You may remember in late March of 2021, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that bump stocks were not, in fact, machine guns. The ruling itself was based on the ATF's bump stock regulation not being entitled Chevron defense. In other words, the ATF's ruling couldn't have the Chevron deference, which is a legal doctrine that holds that a court may not substitute its own opinion in the place of reasonable interpretation made by an administrative agency. Once this was decided, Gun Owners of America made the case that the bump stock does not meet the legal definition of a machine gun. The Sixth Circuit then ruled in favor of Gun Owners of America and said that bump stocks are not, in fact, machine guns. Well, it looks like after an en banc session, a session where the entire court reviews and votes instead of a single judge or smaller panel, the Sixth Circuit has held an 8-8 tie vote, leaving the bump stock ban in place. This ruling is a double-edged sword for gun owners. The ban allows the ATF to prosecute rare breed firearms for their FRT or force reset trigger, turning law-abiding gun owners into felons overnight. It also currently lays the legal foundation for regulating all semi-automatic firearms under the NFA, which we know is the stated goal of gun control groups and advocates like the once nominated almost ATF Director David Chipman. On the other hand, if the Supreme Court can overturn the regulation, the ATF will have little power to try and regulate semi-automatic firearms without Congress. For those unfamiliar with bump stocks, they are devices that use the force of the firearm's recoil to bump the trigger, allowing for a faster rate of fire. But to quote the Honorable Judge Batchelder in the Sixth Circuit's opinion in March of 2021, a bump stock may change how the pull of the trigger is accomplished, but it does not change the fact that the semi-automatic firearm shoots only one shot for each pull of the trigger. With or without a bump stock, a semi-automatic firearm is capable of firing only a single shot for each pull of the trigger. Then it goes to a graphic of how a bump stock works. Consider the legal implications of regulating an item that does not convert a semi-automatic firearm into a machine gun. The ATF is regulating these items because they seem to speed up the rate of fire. But if you are a disciplined shooter, even a heavy mil-spec trigger can be fired at a fast speed. See where this is headed? This is why it's so important to see the bump stock ban as a gateway to more regulation from the federal government. The ATF will eventually require NFA compliance for all semi-automatic rifles by using the bump stock ban as a precedent. Don't just take it from me. Here's a quote from gun control activist and former ATF director nominee David Chipman. Quote, "The danger posed by firearms that enable shooters to continue firing in this manner is the same reason Congress chose to include machine guns in the NFA when it was originally enacted. These weapons enable a shooter to fire many bullets very quickly. Semi-automatic firearms equipped with large-capacity magazines do not, however, fall under the NFA. The NFA refers to machine guns as those firearms that discharge more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. Firearms developed since the NFA and equipped with large-capacity magazines rarely require manual reloading, but they can expel a lot of ammunition in a brief period of time. They do so by allowing a trigger to be pulled many times very easily and ensuring that there is almost always another bullet ready to go. Despite this, large-capacity magazines and semi-automatic firearms equipped with them, sometimes called assault weapons, are not regulated under the NFA, even though they pose incredible danger to our communities," unquote. It's very clear from this quote that David Chipman and his friends in the gun control lobby have an obvious objective. The bump stock ban is their legal path to this goal of a complete regulation of all semi-automatic firearms. But don't despair. The tie vote from the Sixth Circuit's en banc session allows for a power move from Gun Owners of America. They can now appeal their case to the Supreme Court. Considering that recently the Supreme Court has signaled a willingness to hear Second Amendment cases. In November, the court heard oral arguments for NYSRPA v. Bruin, a challenge to New York's May issue concealed carry permitting regime that allows a select few to carry a handgun only after proving an atypical need or a good and substantial reason. This case may likely get its day in the Supreme Court, and hopefully the justices will see the clear evidence that a single function of the trigger means semi-automatic. So today, the bump stock ban holds. We'll see what happens when the Supreme Court hears the arguments. I would say we'll see what happens if the Supreme Court hears the arguments, because there is absolutely no guarantee that the court will grant a writ of certiorari to the case. In other words, there's damn sure no guarantee that they'll ever hear it. So,
and that's right. No, a lot of people I've heard, have gotten excited on, some of these cases decided by other circuits and whatnot about, oh, we can just take it to the Supreme Court, and they're hearing these cases now. Well, I was like, they've heard one, and we have yet to see their ruling on it. Hold your horses. Let's see if, how they rule on the New York case.
yeah.
Because if they come down hardline on the gun control side of that case, which is unlikely considering they took it, but then it could, mean we're in for even a harder battle than what we were before. So let's wait and see on this one before we get excited about it.
Well, I think the New York case is going to come down as pro two-way. It's just a question of how. I suspect Roberts is going to try to rule on that as narrowly as he possibly can. But you're right. I think before we start salivating over the bump stock case getting sent to SCOTUS, which I think would be a good thing, because I don't believe that this case could pass muster on its merits, because the ATF doesn't have the authority to redefine law. Only Congress has the authority to redefine law. But again, that's my opinion. We know what that's worth. I think if it were to be heard by SCOTUS, they'd have no choice but to rule in favor of gun owners of America, saying that the ATF cannot, in fact, do this. However, on the other side, if by some reason they did decide to hear it and then said, yeah, ATF can do this, boy, that's going to open the floodgates for all kinds of bad shit to happen. Because I think that the writer of the article is absolutely correct. They're trying to get semi-autos on the NFA registry. But that's, of course, just another stepping stone towards what they really want. And I think anybody who's watched this show more than once will know that I think that they really want complete, total, and utter civilian disarmament. That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the good things that came out of the Trump presidency is we don't absolutely have to count on Judge Roberts to side with the pro 2A side for once. Now that there's a 6-3 now?
In theory.
Well,
yeah.
That's true, but unfortunately we have not heard anything yet from Kavanaugh or what's her name.
Yeah.
So we
Coney
really
Barrett.
don't know how they're going to roll.
Right. Yeah, I know, but we know Roberts has stabbed us in the back on certain cases before that have come before the Supreme Court that we thought, oh, it's going to be overturned, and when it gets to the Supreme Court, and Roberts sided with the liberals. That's basically what my point was.
Was that article from the GONRA?
No, that was from... Hold on one moment. Let me get to my bookmarks again. That was from zerohedge.com.
Who owns them?
By Tyler Durden, submitted by the Machine Gun Nest. I have no idea who owns Zero Hedge.
All right, it just sounded like GONRA propaganda.
Yeah, another thing to take into consideration, if Supreme Court even does grant cert, it's going to take probably a year before they even hear the case.
Oh, at least. At least. There's this. Well, the last of my main topics shows something good, actually, for once. At least if you are a proud resident of the Buckeye State. Like I am. Ohio House passes knife law preemption bill from December 9th, 2021. By a vote of 55 to 36, the Ohio House passed Knife Rights Ohio's knife law preemption bill, House Bill 243. Passage came only hours after HB 243 passed out of the Government Oversight Committee by a vote of 8 to 4 after 5 hearings. The Senate previously passed their version of this bill, SB 156. We'd like to congratulate HB 243 sponsor Representative Al Cutrona on passage of this bill. We sincerely appreciate all the effort he's put into getting the job done. We'd also like to thank Government Oversight Committee Chairman Shane Willikin for his assistance in moving this bill. Knife Rights will let you know when it is time to next call or email in support of knife law preemption in Ohio. Click here to sign up for our free News Slice newsletter to be notified, which, for those who are interested, I will put the link out in the chatteroo there so that you can go check this article out yourself. And I do that because down on the right is where you can sign up for their newsletter to maybe check up on some knife rights in your state, right? These bills follow enactment on April 12th of Knife Rights Ohio Knife Law Reform Bill SB 140. Without knife law preemption making those reforms applicable statewide, numerous cities and towns in Ohio are still able to ban many knives that are perfectly legal under Ohio statutes. Knife law preemption is a knife rights criminal justice reform effort that repeals and prevents local ordinances more restrictive than state law, which only serve to confuse or entrap law-abiding citizens traveling within or through the state. Preemption ensures citizens can expect consistent enforcement of state knife laws everywhere within a state. Knife Rights passed the nation's first knife law preemption in Arizona in 2010 and has since passed preemption bills in Alaska, Georgia, Kansas, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Knife Rights is America's grassroots knife owners organization, leading the fight to rewrite knife laws in America and forging a sharper future for all Americans. I like that. That's a nice slogan, forging a sharper future for all Americans. Knife rights efforts have resulted in 34 bills enacted repealing knife bans in 23 states and over 150 cities and towns since 2010. I think that's great. Yeah, we don't have preemption just yet, Ohio Wolverine. Ohio Wolverine is like, oh, I thought knife laws changed in April. Yes, they did. But there wasn't preemption, so municipalities like Cleveland could say, okay, this spring assist knife, which is completely legal in Ohio, well, it might be illegal in Cleveland or Columbus or Dayton or Canton or wherever. So by carrying this by state law, I'm totally fine. But since it's spring assist, by a municipal law, I could be committing a felony and go to prison. Preemption law cuts that off, so to speak. And I think it's great. So now what has to happen is the leadership in the state, in the Senate and the House, have to get together and decide which of the two bills, the Senate version or the House version, they're going to send to the governor. Or maybe they can reconcile, take this piece out of here, put that piece out of there, whatnot. But then it gets to go to the governor. So we'll see what DeWine does with it.
Mike, you mind if I cut in here?
No, go ahead.
I'd just like to take a slice out of what you said there. I kind of like how you slipped in the knife terminology there. You got right to the point. You're pretty sharp.
Well, I try to be rather cutting edge around here.
Yeah, and these puns are cutting like a knife. I tell you what.
You're getting getting on the nerves of some of them people out there that, well, they could be bleeding hearts.
That's right.
That's what I was going to say. The dad joke level tonight just went through the roof.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It is. I'm sitting here laughing.
Well, I'm a dad, so I'm allowed to make dad jokes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's a real cut up.
Cut above the rest.
Yes, I am. Shit, now y'all are just cutting me down to size. What the hell? Ohio Wolverine says,
we all tried to take a stab at it.
Ohio Wolverine says, well, you wouldn't have to worry about it in Cleveland since they drop off felonies to misdemeanors in Cuyahoga County due to COVID-19. Well, there is that.
Yeah, and some of the cuts were a little more dull than others.
Yeah, but I think what we're doing is we're honing our comedy here.
Oh!
Got to keep sharp.
Right, you got right to the point.
Gunpowder says if y'all don't get a handle on these puns, I'm going to cut y'all.
Serious note, before you move on to the next topic, I'll let you guys have all the jokes you want, but I did want to say one thing before you move on.
Go right ahead, because I got to type in my poll.
Okay. That's where you said there was one good thing that happened this week, and that was that. I'd say there is one other good thing that I was reading that happened actually here in my state, surprisingly enough. City of San Diego is, officially brought charges on several of the ringleaders for the Antifa-fueled riots, in their city from earlier this year. I didn't have a chance to read the full article. That's just the gist of what I know, but I'd say that's still good news. Hopefully other places will follow suit.
Shanks for sharing that with us.
Dude, that's stretching. That is stretching
I know.
right there.
I know. Yeah.
Guns and Barbecue says all these puns have him on edge.
See how that is? You just work your way in.
You need a machete to get through all these puns.
Yeah, no one really needs to be too worried about, Gunpowder. She's, I think, I would say her bark's worse than her bite, but I'm also out of reach of the bite, so I'm not too worried about it.
Have you ever met her?
No, I haven't met her in person yet.
Yeah, she means what she says.
Well, like I said, I'm still out of reach, so.
She can drive.
Yep.
Except I don't think any of you guys have my physical address. The only thing you guys have is a P.O. box, so I'm okay.
She'll lie in wait for you.
All right, folks. Now that the, I don't know. I think the current state of things here in Ohio as far as our knife laws go, much like as it applied to gun laws before we have preemption, is that having a patchwork quilt of different laws that the average citizen can't know all of them everywhere, and how it's different from, you cross one imaginary line to go to another. I think that's just downright idiotic. Speaking of downright idiotic.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
All right, folks. First up in Moron of the Week, once I can, pull it up, is this piece from nightcrier.org. Opinion: mainstream media failing to shed light on gun violence, by Yamuni Kaijumi, staff writer from December 6th. Just by searching gun violence in Philadelphia, a surge of headlines including "Stop Killing Our Community," "Philadelphia is about to set a grim record for homicides," and "Funeral for Temple University student Sam Collington held Saturday," are some of the latest news headlines impacting our region. As much as news and media have been under scrutiny over the last several years, this is also a good time to examine the role media coverage plays concerning mass shootings and gun violence. When the media struggles to create a compelling narrative to capture the audience's attention, the policies surrounding gun control receive little attention as well. We need to reconsider how the press covers gun-related issues in America because it is ineffective. The mass shooting headline gaining heavy traction on the mainstream media right now is the massacre that occurred at Oxford High School, leaving 4 students dead and several injured in Michigan. The suspect exited the bathroom and started shooting students in the hallway, causing the school to be placed on lockdown. Students were captured trying to frantically escape through the windows. Parents were instructed to head across the high school to a grocery store to reunite with their kids. Ethan Crumbly, a 15-year-old sophomore, was taken into custody by police within minutes of their arrival. Police recovered a 9mm Sig Sauer, which had been purchased by the father 4 days before the shooting occurred. Law enforcement discloses that school officials had a meeting on Monday and Tuesday with Crumbly and his parents. The shooting took place on the same Tuesday. Crumbly has been charged as an adult. Authorities in Michigan were looking for the parents of the teen on December 3rd, and after a prosecutor filed involuntary manslaughter charges against them. Crumbly's attorney claimed the parents left town for their own safety and would be returning to Oxford to face the charges. However, Detroit's police chief, James White, dismissed that possibility. James and Jennifer Crumbly were later captured at midnight, now considered a flight risk. The Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Connecticut on December 14, 2012, received extensive media coverage in the days following. According to Danny Hayes from the LexisNexis U.S. Newspapers and Wires database, there were over 2,000 stories per week covered in the news in December of 2012, but by January the number had dropped by half. The fewer than 1,000 stories per week indicate that stories about mass shootings gained traction for a short period of time before being overshadowed by more recent events in the media. The news stories of mass shootings failed to effectively portray the horrors of gun violence. The audience is exposed to the grieving relatives, but not the actual horrors of the scene, leaving the effects of the shooting to be perceived as bloodless. Media outlets must do a better job at demonstrating the impact of gun control policies and must maintain pressure after headlines appear in the news, because mainstream media is currently failing to shed light on the issue of stronger gun control legislation. News outlets focus on the Virginia Tech mass shooting that occurred in April 16, 2007, where 2 attacks took place. Next, the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting on July 20, 2012. Lastly, the attack on Republican Gabrielle Giffords in Arizona on January 8, 2011. Each event showed similar trends in the media found via the LexisNexis U.S. Newspapers and Wires database mentioned earlier. During the week following the Virginia Tech shooting, nearly 1,000 news stories containing the phrase gun control were published. The pattern of coverage in the mainstream media is clear. Following the incident, articles about gun control make headway but fail to gain real momentum as other matters take center stage. After 5 weeks had passed since the Virginia Tech shooting, news coverage nearly went back to where it had been before the shooting. The Aurora theater shooting followed the same pattern. When dramatic events such as a mass shooting are brought to the attention of the media, an onslaught of news stories is published, but then coverage gradually declines because journalists concentrate their efforts on newer issues, leaving the public's attention to turn as well. Philadelphia had one of the deadliest years on record due to gun violence. Nearly 500 people were killed in 2020, causing the city to almost surpass its previous highest homicide rate in 1990. The violence has struck overwhelming in communities of color. City officials and law enforcement are blaming gun violence on a variety of factors such as structural inequalities like poverty, underemployment, and a shortage of police officers. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, in a written statement, Mayor Jim Kenney said there was no greater priority for our administration than to reduce violence and create safer communities and a more just city for everyone. Gun violence started to rise from the past 2 years, impacting big cities such as Chicago, Detroit, and Las Vegas. The losses, by the way, as a complete aside, I have to ask, who's in charge of those cities? But I digress. In Las Vegas, the losses from these shootings are devastating to communities, especially in Philadelphia, which has nearly 11 homicides a week. The amount of loss leaves neighborhoods and countless families scarred. They take a part of your heart away, said Roxanne Myers-Conti in an interview with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Her son was fatally shot on Valentine's Day in Philadelphia. She knows justice won't bring her son back, but she moved forward, finding comfort in the last conversation she held with her son. How is Philadelphia planning to handle this gun violence crisis? Philadelphia sued Pennsylvania in 2020 over a concept known as preemption, which does not allow cities to pass local gun laws, nor should it. This suit revolves around restrictions the city will not be able to impose unless the state approves them, such as requiring a permit to purchase a firearm in the city and setting limits to how many guns someone can purchase during a certain amount of time. City officials turn to the courts as they are in a tough spot. However, Democrats are getting backlash from Republicans in Harrisburg. Jason Gottsman, the spokesperson for House Majority Leader Kerry Benninghoff, accused District Attorney Larry Krasner of failing to enforce criminal gun laws and allowing violent criminals back on the streets, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. A candlelight vigil was held for slain Temple University student Samuel Collington, who was killed during a robbery attempt. I will never forget Sam. He's always going to be one of those students where I just wanted to see his success. Waited to see him on the political stage. Beloved student, always, his former teacher said in an interview with Fox 29. Collington, a 21-year-old student, has been shot twice in the chest just a few blocks away from Temple's campus. He was rushed to the Temple University Hospital, where he later died. The number of killings this year is 55% higher compared to the statistics in 2019. I'm heartbroken and outraged that we've lost nearly 500 Philadelphians, including many children and teenagers, to needless violence this year. But I never stop thinking about the victims and their families and the incredible loss these senseless deaths leave behind, explained Kenny in the Philadelphia Inquirer. The role of media coverage has changed throughout the years. While the media is not fully effective at portraying the stories of gun violence, initiatives to help journalists depict gun violence more thoroughly will help communities that are suffering. According to the University of Pennsylvania's Fels Institute of Government platform, the Initiative for Better Gun Violence Reporting was launched in 2019 by Philadelphia multimedia journalist Tim McMillan. The initiative focuses on community training sessions on issues such as media literacy, finding better sources, and holding civic leaders accountable, hoping to provide opportunities for members of affected communities to meet with traditional journalists for everyone to learn from each other. Building these trusting relationships will empower vulnerable populations to tell, publish, and distribute their own stories. This will help community gun violence to be addressed as a public health challenge that can be eradicated with intervention, education, and the pursuit of economic justice. So, in other words, being much more succinct and much less verbose, Yamuni Kaijumi, staff writer for Night Crier, thinks that the media isn't slanted enough and doesn't do enough to twist the narrative to a more anti-gun stance.
Yep.
I can't make this shit up, folks.
No, that person should win just for writing a college term paper and disguising it as a newspaper article. You had to have been reading that for a good 5 minutes now.
Yeah. That's just, I can't believe the utter stupidity that this person shows trying to be disguised as intellectualism. So, Yamuni Kaijumi, you're contestant number 1 in Moron of the Week. Contestant number 2 is this article from Breitbart from, when's it from? December 10th. Michigan Democrat, insane to allow teachers to have guns for classroom defense. Michigan State Senator Rosemary Baer, Democrat, says the Republican idea of allowing teachers to have guns for classroom defense is insane. Slate interviewed Baer and said one Republican representative has introduced a bill allowing teachers to have guns inside schools, in lockboxes, but they'll be able to arm themselves. And this is in the wake of the Oxford High shooting. Baer responded, "Yeah, that is literally insane." She continued, "And no teacher that I've ever talked to, or anyone else for that matter, wants a gun at school. That's a nutty idea in every perspective." On December 13, 2018, Breitbart News reported the commission investigating the February 14, 2018 Parkland High School shooting voted 13-1 to call for allowing teachers to be armed for classroom defense. The commission was led by Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri, who entered the investigation as an opponent of arming teachers. But Galtieri made clear the investigation into the Parkland shooting changed his views, that he went from opposing the arming of teachers to supporting it. He said of the Parkland shooting, people need to keep an open mind as to the reality is that if someone else in that school had a gun, it could have saved kids' lives. Gee, doesn't that sound eerily like what we were just discussing earlier? While Michigan State Senator Baer opposes allowing teachers to be armed, she does support numerous gun controls, one of which is a gun storage law. Slate shows that the storage law Baer supports would require Michigan gun buyers to sign a paper acknowledging that they will be charged with a felony if a minor gains access to their gun and hurts themselves or others. And Breitbart News noted that Baer announced legislation to ban ammunition magazines holding more than 10 rounds after the Oxford High shooting. The legislation would prohibit the sale or possession of a magazine capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition beginning on January 1st, 2023, according to the Detroit Free Press. So, Senator Baer, you Democrat doofus, you're contestant number 2 on Moron of the Week. But wait, there's more. because this piece from the Washington Examiner tells us that criminals are the real victims, according to the Los Angeles District Attorney. It's from December 8th. Gun control is for civilians, not criminals. The criminal justice system should view criminals as victims. These are the guiding lights of Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon. On the same day that an 81-year-old woman was shot to death in a home invasion robbery, Gascon sent out a fundraising email decrying the use of sentencing enhancements. Enhancements add prison time for violent crimes for a number of reasons, from gang affiliation to the use of guns. But Gascon thinks we shouldn't be too hard on criminals. Gascon did not add a sentence enhancement to the charges against the woman's killer, a man who, of course, had an extensive criminal history and was recently released on parole in September. The enhancement would add 25 years to his sentence. Gascon said that this is because sentence enhancements are disproportionately used against minorities. It's a dubious claim at best, but it ignores the real question. Does this individual, a repeat criminal who tried to rob another house after shooting a woman to death, deserve a sentencing enhancement that would help keep him behind bars? It would seem like a pretty simple decision for a Democrat in charge of the criminal justice system, as Gascon is in Los Angeles, to take a hardline stance on crimes committed with a gun. Democrats are the party of gun control, and Gascon is a proponent of it as well. But like other liberal district attorneys, he is convinced his primary goal should be to keep criminals out of jail rather than have them face justice. That magical word equity is the goal, not safety. It shouldn't take a murder to lock up an unrepentant repeat criminal. It should be obvious that such predators belong behind bars, sentencing enhancement and all, especially if you're someone who has decided to lecture people about gun control. But when your biggest goal is fighting mass incarceration, criminals are actually victims, while the real victims did not have enough education to keep their mouths shut. In a normal world, people such as Gascon would be nowhere near the district attorney's office, but Los Angeles chose to support this by electing him in the first place, just as San Francisco did with Chesa Boudin and Philadelphia did with Larry Krasner. Social justice is what prevails in cities dominated by Democrats. If you want real justice, you'll have to look elsewhere. So, District Attorney Dumbass is contestant number 3 in Moron of the Week. So, who do you guys think it should be? Kooky Kaijumi, Democrat Doofus, or DA Dumbass? Let us know in the poll and shout out in the chat. Or if you're doing this in replay, shout out in the comments to tell us who you think should have been picked.
Does the panel get a vote?
Yeah, go ahead, vote.
DA Dumbass.
DA Dumbass.
I'm going to stick with my original inclination and go with the first one. You don't need to write an article that's 5 minutes long to read.
Kooky Kaijumi? Yeah.
Yeah. An honorable mention would be Josie Smollett.
Yeah, no kidding.
Convicted on 5 out of 6 charges for faking his own attack.
Poor feller. Hey, Squib, who do you think should have the title this week?
Well, I was going to vote for the first guy, but that just went on way too long, and I lost interest. So I'm going to vote for that bitch senator in Michigan who doesn't even live in the district she represents.
The Democrat Doofus. Outstanding.
The aspirin senator, Bayer, because she gave me a headache. She gave me a headache.
No, have Mike read that first one over again, and it'll put you to sleep, and you wake up, your headache will be gone.
Or his head will explode.
Yeah.
Seriously, that didn't even read like a good college paper. That read like a horrible paper.
A good one.
That guy can't write. I'm sorry. He didn't keep his focus on the subject. He bounced around and around and around and put extraneous, unconnected shit in there, or at least he didn't do a good enough job to connect what he talked about to what he was supposed to be talking about.
So here's my theory.
Overall,
he did talk to text on it. He didn't write it. He didn't actually type it.
That could be.
He didn't make up different things and tie them all together in an organized fashion and proofread it and stuff. He literally talked into the mic, and that's the way it turned out.
You you might be correct here. You might have something.
That was an opinion column, correct?
Yes, it was an editorial.
Okay, so that's where it doesn't surprise me that the writing quality is so poor. I'm guessing on those they probably don't have the same level of back check or review on them. Not to say that it would have necessarily helped the slant at all, but that's for at least making it readable.
Well, I wouldn't even go that far, Pickle, because I've read articles lately where even straight news stories, the writing is awful.
Oh, yeah. The editing is horrible in a lot of them. Guns and Barbecue said, these contestants are dull. They need to hone their craft. Maybe then they'll be sharp. Is this the same Gascon from Beauty and the Beast? Warsaw says Joy Behar should be more on of the week. Yeah, she should always be. That's why I don't put her in, because it would just be there'd be no contest. There'd be no reason to vote. Speaking of the vote right now, we have 8 votes: 25% Kooky Kajumi, none for Democrat Goofus, and 75% for DA Dumbass. We got 12 people watching. That means we need 4 more votes, folks. Come on, sound off and tell me what you think. This is your chance. If at no other time during the broadcast, this is the audience participation. And Ohio Wolverine said, at least Juicy Spouyer's attacker will be punished. Gunpowder says, so Juicy Fruit will actually spend time in jail? Probably not. I mean, they're felonies, but, he's famous. So, nothing. All right, DA Dumbass going once. Gascon going twice. And apparently no one is stupid like Gascon, because he is the moron of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
And now we go from the ridiculous to the sublime, folks. Those of you who've been here for a while know that once you hear the Moron of the Week outro, it is time for Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts. Yay! Self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It's where I'm instead reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to keep the bad guy from making him do the same. And I only decided that there were 2 that I wanted to put in here this week. There were more, obviously, there always are, but I think I'm going to try to kind of do a midweek self-defense shout-out video, and I want to kind of save some for that. So, first up is from Q13Fox.com. I had the right to protect myself. Washington man shoots, kills suspected home burglar. From December 9th. Spanaway, Washington. A resident shot and killed a home intruder in Spanaway early Thursday, and a second suspect escaped, according to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Deputies said the 31-year-old resident, Jeremy Smith, shot at 2 men who tried to break into his house near A Street East and 165th Street East around 4 a.m. The homeowner told police he shot at the suspects as they kicked in his back door. The intruders then ran into the front yard, where deputies later found one of the suspects dead. The other suspect ran off. Smith said he's been renting the home with his wife and children for the past 3 years. Smith explained he and his sister were in the house when the suspects kicked down the back door. Smith said he acted in self-defense. When everything first started, the first thing I had to do was take a few breaths and calm myself down, because I knew it could have gone one of 2 ways. I didn't know who they were, I didn't know what they had, but the first thing I did, and it's the honest-to-God truth, is I took a few breaths to myself. That way I knew I was calm enough to make a proper judgment decision, said Smith. Well, good for you, dude, but I'm glad those taking the time for those few breaths didn't turn into your last breaths. Investigators have not released any further information about the suspects, but said the man who died was 24 years old. While detectives continue investigating the case, Smith said he will continue standing by his actions. It kind of goes back to your rights. I have the right to carry and I have the right to protect myself and I have the right to protect my property, said Smith. Protect yourself. That doesn't mean go looking for it. That means just be ready. People who live in the area said crime has been increasing in the neighborhood. One man said he recently bought security lights and a surveillance camera to help protect his home. If it ain't one thing, it's another, said the man, who asked to keep his identity private. That kind of upsets me that we have this kind of crime going on in the neighborhood. It's not a good feeling because we don't know. It could be something happening tomorrow, tonight, you know? Same old thing. And last but most certainly not least, from Philadelphia.cbslocal.com, Feltonville corner store owner shoots suspect during attempted robbery, police say. Now see, here's something in Philadelphia that the media should be reporting more of. Not what that other idiot wanted to have. This is from December 6th. Police say a corner store owner shot a would-be robber in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood Monday afternoon. The shooting happened inside a store on the 4500 block of D Street around 1:30 p.m. Police say the 20-year-old male suspect was shot once in the left shoulder by the store owner when he attempted to rob the store. The suspect is currently in stable condition at Einstein Medical Center and is being held as a prisoner, according to police. So there you have it, folks. This is what the media should be reporting more of, not trying to amp up fear and take advantage of atrocities and stir up people's emotion to achieve their political ends, like Kuki Kaijumi wants them to do. No. They should spread more stories of the good guy defeating the bad guy, because it happens far more than they would ever want to admit. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, folks. I want to thank everybody for being here. Rich, is there anything you would like to plug? Any words of wisdom you would like to leave us with?
Oh yeah, when done here, go over and watch Gizzard Gary's channel and watch Foul Territory.
Yes,
Gary's
it actually is on tonight.
Yes.
Unlike last week where I tried to tell folks to go watch Foul Territory on a Sunday night. No, it's Friday. This is the night. Go watch Foul Territory at 9 Eastern. Squib, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
You know, earlier I said something about putting your emotions in check and I guess being able to talk over the situation. And I didn't have my emotions in check at that particular moment. What's going on here in Michigan is really close to home. I've had my email blow up every day since that day from the police and the school district. And we're just seeing all kinds of stuff happening here that I don't know how much of the national news is screwing it up, exaggerating it, or not reporting it at all. And I've heard some things from people on YouTube say things that about what happened that weren't true. And because I still have a kid in school and because it's kind of close to home, I'm not putting my emotions in check. However, if I had the opportunity to sit down with lawmakers and they were serious about entertaining the ideas that I had or listening to what I had to say or not just placating me, not just blowing me off or whatever like that, I would put my emotions in check for my kid. But until that mythical day comes, it's just something where, if I seem more irascible than normal or I'm just being my regular irascible self, it's just because that sort of thing just doesn't happen here. So this is the second show where I've kind of blown up about it, but it just kind of irritates me about how this could have been prevented with good parenting and common sense from the school, and how this has affected everybody in the surrounding communities, in addition to the families that have lost kids that they can never get back, or have kids that are going to be in physical therapy the rest of their life and suffering with this and just all this other stuff. So it's just something where I just didn't want to go to the place where our side always goes every time this time around. And that is, they're coming for our guns. I just kind of didn't want to go there. So,
No, but
guess-
to be fair, they have introduced gun control legislation and are pushing for gun control legislation in Michigan over this. So
Yeah, and it's nothing that would have stopped it. That's maybe the thing that it just pushes my buttons a little bit more.
Sure.
It just does. I mean, I'm not thrilled whenever this happens anywhere else, but in my time living in this state, this is the first time I even remember this sort of thing happening here. I'm not saying violence never happens, but this particular type of incident in this particular way and that sort of thing. So thanks for giving me a platform to be irascible on and just speak my mind.
Anytime. Speaking of anytime, Pickle, you want to take us on out the door?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be on here, and that's where I know things got a little heated back and forth, with because emotions ran a bit high on a few things, but that's what's great about this show is we all can get those opinions out, still be friends afterwards, and it gives us a great opportunity to compare ideas, and I wanted to say thank you for that, Budget.
Well, thank you for coming and being a part of it.
Yeah, I just want to note something. This is the first time I've been on a show where things got heated and I wasn't involved. So I just want to thank Squib and Pickle for that.
Yeah, man, I would have thought you'd have my back and one up me.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody out there who watched this dumpster fire, this train wreck. I told you at the beginning it was going to be a train wreck, and I was right. Particularly if you are in Ohio, we need to let our elected officials know that particularly old Mikey Mike DeWine, our wonderful governor, who hopefully will be primaried out and not be in office after the next election, but I digress. We need to let him know what we think about this knife preemption law, that he needs to sign it. Send him a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeons, bicycle messenger, smoke signals, heliograph, anything that we have to do to let him know what we think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one, and thanks for being here.